Hello and welcome to the Care and Counsel series. My name is Rebecca Spinner and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Surprenant Beneski and Nunes. We are estate planning and elder law attorneys, and I'm here today with Ruth McNaughton, who is a geriatric care manager with the company Comfort Keepers. Hi, Ruth. So nice to see you again today.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about navigating the hospital stay. And Ruth is really an expert in this area. She really helps to advocate for seniors in that clinical environment. So we're going to kind of talk through some of the important things people need to know, the pitfalls, and kind of make sure that people are ready and know what to do when they are dealing with a hospital admission. So Ruth,
Mhm.
why don't we start off by talking about what are some of the red flags that a family should be looking for during a hospital, say a hospital admission?
Sure. As you know, Rebecca, I spent many years on a hospital administration role, overseeing case management and discharge planning. So one of the very first things going into the hospital is establishing what level of care you're in, making sure that you know if you're an inpatient status versus an outpatient or observation status, because that is significantly going to impact not only your out-of-pocket expenses, but also what your options are at the time of discharge. So establishing that first and foremost, there are requirements that the hospital has to give you forms to sign that will dictate which level that you're in. And that is the time to ask those questions.
Okay, that seems like it can be really difficult to navigate. Even just hearing you talk about it
Mhm.
now, there are a lot of moving parts. How do you ensure that the doctors are actually talking to the family so that the family knows what the status is and what that means for their loved one?
Right. So in the hospital setting, you're typically going to be seen by a hospitalist who is a physician that specializes in hospital care. On any given day, they could be managing 15 to 20 patients. So when they round on patients and see the patients every day, it's important that you get their name, their contact information. If your family member or yourself have questions, how to get in touch with them after the fact, and to set up a time for family to speak with them if there are more questions that the patient themselves can't address.
Okay. So I think maybe a good segue here is how do you actually support the patient and the family during that process? Because it seems like even if you know what some of these pitfalls are, it can be very difficult to navigate that on your own.
Yeah. So from the level of care standpoint, those are determined sometimes by the insurance company if it's a managed Medicare or commercial insurance, but there are nurses in the hospital that determine that level of care based on how sick the patient is and what is being done for them clinically. So that making sure that that level of care is correct is something that a geriatric care manager with that specific type of experience can help with, because it is a clinical criteria um, program that gets applied to determine that level of care. So that's first and foremost. And then ensuring that the care is done, correctly during the stay, but most importantly, that an appropriate and safe discharge plan is in place prior to discharge.
So okay, that's really helpful. So, I've heard of a discharge planner before. You kind of get like a case manager in the hospital. Can you
Yes.
talk about what that discharge planner's role is and kind of why their goals might be different from your goals? Because, like you're saying, you were wanting to make sure that these people have a safe plan in place. So, how does that differ from kind of the role of the discharge planner?
Right. So, the hospital's goal is to take good care of anybody, provide safe care, but their goal is also to discharge people. So on the business side of a hospital, the case managers are held to a length of stay, the time of day that patients are discharged, and, the a hospital bed is a commodity, and there are always people waiting in the emergency room and surgery for the next bed that becomes available. Case managers are a required role in the hospital setting. They may be social workers in some cases, they may be nurse case managers, But they are required by Medicare rules and regulations to set up a safe discharge plan. And technically, they are supposed to notify of that discharge plan and anticipated discharge date at least a day in advance, preferably 2 days in advance, to give people enough time to not only plan ahead, get the care that they need in place, but to also appeal that decision, if not in agreement with it. So, the hospital's pushing to discharge, whether that's home or to another care setting. But bringing in a geriatric care manager who understands those rules and regulations can really make sure that if it's appropriate to appeal a discharge decision, that that's done. And to also make sure that the patient is ready for discharge and has everything in place to go home safely or to go to the next level of care.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like there are a lot of sort of moving parts to navigate here. I think I might call you if I have to have a hospital stay because it really seems like a lot to kind of wrap your head around. But I think what I'm getting from this is having a GCM in place already can really help with that transition and to make sure while you're in the hospital, you're receiving the type of care that you really need and that, the appropriate paperwork has been filled out and, the criteria are met in the way that they need to be met. So thank you so much for explaining that process to us, Ruth. I think it was really helpful.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you for coming to this episode of our series, and we hope to see you next time.